I'm a fucking hater, is what I am.
Yes.
When they said that, all right, whoa. Relax. All right?
Relax.
Those are facts.
What do you mean, relax?
Those are
All right.
facts.
Yeah. Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my
Well, I want to go back to Tony.
Mm.
So I firmly believe that Tony Kukoc would have had, like, statistically a better NBA career if he would have went to another team.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Of course.
being part of the Bulls nucleus is like he had to sacrifice so much to play with Michael and also Pippen, who was essentially their point guard.
Yeah.
Even though it was like a motion-based offense, so nobody really dominated the ball except Michael in some cases. But because that's his position. He's that small forward. He's the point forward who's going to take some shots, set up offense. Like his highlights of like passing and like obviously they didn't shoot a lot of threes, and we've talked about this over and over again then in relation to now. It's like a different game.
Mm-hmm.
But had he have gone and played for like someone like Don Nelson in the the mid-90s, we remember Tony is a very different player. Now, he doesn't win anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's for certain. No one else is going to win in the 90s except for a few Houston, whatever. But statistically, though, he would have been a different player. He probably would have made more all-star games and things like that. I would be interested to know, and obviously we probably won't see Tony Kukoc again because he didn't seem really interested to be in it as much as he was. But I'd be interested to see if asked, like, would he trade his rings to be like the guy, to be the Michael or the Scotty on another team? I wonder what he would say, because and we're gonna see it now, because the next week's episode is gonna be the Steve Kerr thing and all that other stuff. We're gonna see how in practice he would come at his fucking neck just cause sometimes.
Yeah, just cause.
Just cause, because he's like, if I'm not shitty to him, as soon as somebody says this to him in the game, he's gonna lose focus. He has to get used to being bullied. And I'm gonna be that bully. I don't know if he ever like loved being a Chicago Bull.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us would have loved it being in that situation either.
No, I definitely would not have responded well to MJ.
Yeah, no, you would have got traded the next week.
Immediately. And then I would have tried to fight him the next game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember like when I heard about how crazy, I'm like, dang, like my man went through like this war-torn country and they're gonna abuse him like this, and then they actually said that.
Yeah.
But then it was also like they're like, he got his ass handed to him, but then he was just like, okay, all right, now I gotta. He just wasn't prepared for it, and he said it, and he's like, okay, give me the next game, and then he made a commitment like he wasn't gonna back down, and they said like, he's pretty good.
Although I do wonder about that though too. I was thinking about this at the time, and I love to shit on people for whatever reason. I'm a fucking hater, is what I am.
Yes.
When they said that, all right, whoa. Relax. All right?
Relax.
Those are facts.
What do you mean, relax?
Those are facts.
All right. We done? We done here? All right?
I'm just agreeing with your point. It's a good
point.
No, but you don't agree that fast. No one needs to agree that quickly about my hate.
I will.
Okay. Fred is the example of why me and MJ would not get along, because Fred was a fucking bully, and I tried to fight him every week in high school. So that's the truth.
And never ended well.
No, I've always lost, but I would still try to fight. All right, so I kind of, this is me hating. Is it also possible that Scotty and Michael felt like they made their point and probably took the feet off the gas a little bit in that second game?
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. But Michael's not normal, so you can't think of him
you can't
in
be
normal
sure.
terms.
Yeah.
So like.
Well, but also, okay, so real quick, not to cut you off, but let's reframe his non-normalcy, right? If you take, and this is jumping ahead a little bit, but if you take what Simmons always says about Michael leaving that first retirement, right, is that he didn't have the carrot in front of his face anymore. He was over it. He, had proved his point. There was no longer a hill to climb. Well, couldn't you paint that picture here? Oh, we've made our point. We've dominated this dude. We're gonna win this gold. This kind of, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's not normal. But if Kukoc gets off in the first game, then I think that means in the second game, MJ scores, like 60 points in a fucking Olympics game. You know what I mean?
Maybe, but I think his father's passing, it has a lot more to do with him retiring than
I agree.
just the carrot thing. And it definitely plays a part, but
yeah, I think
like a bunch of other dudes on that team who could have locked Tony Kukoc's ass up. I mean, just the help defense on itself would have just been too much. So they and like I said, he was a really good player. We don't remember him in that way, but he wouldn't like Dirk is ascended to a different level. Mm-hmm. But what we thought about Dirk for most of his career could have been Tony Kukoc.
Oh yeah. Dirk's the until the championship, Dirk is soft and a choker.
But a guy who can get you buckets.
But we literally just celebrated the 8 seed Warriors beating the 1 seed Mavericks in, was that 2007, 2008, whatever year that was. Mm-hmm. All right, and now, okay, so let's take a step back. So we saw Tony. That makes me happy. Yep. You know what I mean? Tony's alive. I thought he was rolling over in his grave all this time. But Tony is alive and well.
Might be.
He might be. Might be. Who is rolling over in his grave is Clyde Drexler. So let's go back in time a bit before the Olympics, which we forgot to talk about. This is exactly why. So let me go step back a little bit even further to our conversation just now about why I don't think MJ looks that bad. The worst thing that is not showing MJ. Why can't I speak English right now? The thing that is not casting the most fondest light upon MJ's legacy currently is that his banter with his teammates seems mad unnatural. You know what I mean? It seems like it's that banter when it's like, I don't fucking like you and you keep joking around with me. You know what I mean? That's what it's more like an uncomfortable laughter. I think that doesn't look good. Right. But when you go back and look at what happens with Clyde, and I can't remember if they pointed this out in last night's episode, Sunday night's episode, because we already knew this, and I don't remember if they actually talk about this specifically, but Clyde's career takes a significant dip after this.
No, they don't in the doc.
Okay, so we've had this conversation obviously, and this is, you can look this up. I meant to look at the stats. That's like, I could name a podcast. I meant to look up the stats, but I do this every fucking episode.
Well, he drops like 10 points in 93.
Yeah, per
game.
Yeah, correct. He dropped significantly. There is an honest conversation. The 3-point shrug is a couple reasons. Like, they pointed out, one, because people were saying could Clyde and MJ were on the same thing. But one of the arguments was that Clyde was a better 3-point shooter than MJ. That was an argument that people were using to try to make the comparison close. Well, as MJ is one to do, he took that exact comparison, and that's why the 8 3-pointers in the first half happened. It's not just the 6. I'm sorry. It's not just because he wants to shit on Clyde as a player. It's because he's saying, "Oh, you're supposed to be a better 3-point shooter than me, right? Bet I'm gonna now beat you by shooting 3-pointers." This game,
setting a record.
And did they talk about the 2 left feet? I can't remember the 2 left shoes.
They did not.
There's the story that happens in the Olympics, where Clyde shows up to practice with 2 left shoes. And Pete, now some of this is legend, it's become myth, and who knows, but we know that some of this is true. So some people attribute him showing up to 2 left feet because he had just been so thoroughly wrecked by MJ that he was like suffering from PTSD essentially, and shows up to practice with 2 left shoes, puts the 2 left shoes on because he doesn't want MJ to find out he's showing up with 2 left shoes. So he practices with 2 left shoes, the whole fucking practice. And MJ finds out anyway and roasts him. You know what I mean? And essentially Clyde is never the same. For the rest
92 is the worst. It's probably like the worst year of his life. He probably like sheds tears over that still.
Yeah. And but listen, because this is the story. This story is the reason why we were saying this about Tony for the last few episodes. Are we sure Tony's going to show up? Because we know what MJ did to Clyde. We sure Tony was with MJ a lot more. We sure he wants to show up to this shit. I don't think he wants to relive his time with MJ.
Well, I was listening to the Zach Lowe podcast like I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, but the week before it came out, The Last Dance came out, it started, and he's interviewing Patrick Ewing and Jeff Van Gundy at the same time.
Okay.
Really awesome interview.
That's dope.
You know, at the end, he's like, you know, he's going through basically the Knicks series we're seeing now and then later on. But he's like, oh, are you guys, like, excited to watch? You can watch your families? And they're like, why the fuck are we going to watch this shit? Like, we lived it and it sucked. Like, why would we do this again? He's like, I'm not watching any of this shit.
Yeah.
Yo. Yeah. Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhyme that are coming from my mind. Used to come